It is the halfway point of the season, and I tell you what, I have waited long enough to win the Millie. It's time. Let's go. 10 under 10, DFS Army. Here we go. What up, everybody? It's your boy DFSUpNorth here, aka Josh Thomas, with another 10 under 10 GPP podcast brought to you by the fine folks over at DFS Army. And we are here today to talk about my favorite GPP options that are projecting under 10% owned on each of the sites. We got 5 picks from Draftkings, 5 picks from Fanduel, and you can see the poster boy there. It is a funky week, you guys. We are talking about 9, I think it's 9, right? 9 backups or third string guys that are coming in to start this week. And that is great for guys like me, because if you've watched this before, you know that my motto is first or last. I ain't here to min cash, right? So before we get to the guys that I'm high on this week that are projecting low owned, right, under 10%, let's get a little recap of week 8. CJ Stroud 2.0x. I mean, he still hit 2x, but it was a tough week for my boy Stroud. But Kirk Cousins 19.86. He was the QB 11, 2.87 value. Travis Etienne was the RB4. Darrell Henderson struggled a little bit, 2.4x value. And then Drake London, wide receiver 39, was trash. But on FanDuel, my man, like, look at these guys. We called out Alvin Kamara, 3x value, and then our boy Gus Edwards was running back 1. Jahan Dotson, 20.8, was wide receiver 7 overall, but was really wide receiver 1 in terms of return on your dollars. So a pretty good week here, right? We hit some of the guys that were in the Millie Maker on both sites, so I'm fairly pleased, right? If we're like I've said here before, if we're talking 30% hit rate, we're feeling pretty good. The one that hurts the most, though, is my boy Kirk, you guys. Like, I'm just so sad about it. And I believe in Jaren Hall and Josh Dobbs, but the Vikings fan is me is pretty sad. We're getting into a stretch of games here that I thought the Vikings would be feeling pretty good. Maybe rip off 6, 7, 8 in a row here, all winnable games, get to, looking at 12-4, which would be crazy. But now we're on. I got Jaren Hall, and the former BYU Cougar is going to put us on his back here. And then if he can't do it, my boy Josh Dobbs will. So a little bit sad on the fan perspective there, but we live and we learn and we move on. It's a part of being a Minnesota sports fan. So these are going to be my favorite plays, guys. Under 10% owned on DraftKings and FanDuel, and hopefully they can help you guys gain leverage on the field and take down a big payday, right? So we're gonna go through my 5 here, and then I'm gonna give you guys kind of what sort of lineup I'm looking to build this week with some of these guys in it. And that's the thing that I try to reiterate to you, right? That our hit rate's going to be around 40%, right? Guys are chalk for a reason in NFL because they're great plays, and you need some of them in your lineups. But you want to get a little different in some spots, right? So we'll start with DraftKings, and then we'll move over to FanDuel and talk about that. The first guy here is Taylor Heineke. I wrote this up earlier today, and my thoughts and feelings on Taylor Heineke have already changed a little. Not a ton. All right. So Heineke, I think, is the best of the backups that are coming in to start this week. He has been, a gunslinger, been awesome in Washington. And then in relief of Desmond Ridder in the second half last week, I thought looked great too. He's got a ton of weapons here. But as we found out later this afternoon, one of them is going to be out. Drake London has been ruled out for the Falcons. Which obviously is a little disappointing, but it does let you stack up some cheaper pieces here for the Falcons, right? I think the obvious pairing is going to be Kyle Pitts, but if you want to just suck up all the tutties, you can get Bijan Robinson because he does get enough passing game work. But for me, it's going to be Kyle Pitts. But if you wanted to get even funkier, let me get to DFSArmy.com here. Let's see who else is playing for the. I gotta sign in again. Come on now. For the Falcons, right? And this is a tool that I am using multiple times a day. And that is our matchups tool that shows play percentage, our projections, all of that stuff. So if we get down here, we can, right away at the top. So Drake London played about 54% of the snaps last week. And sees about 25% of the targets. So there's lots of targets available. And then you throw in the fact that Heineke is likely going to throw it 10 to 12, 15 times more than Desmond Ridder and probably be a little more accurate. We've got some guys who are definitely intriguing options here. So obviously we talked about Kyle Pitts, that 17% target rate. But Kadero Hodge is probably going to be your next best option here. Scotty Miller. I do like Matt Collins, beast mode Matt Collins, quite a bit. And all these guys are super cheap this week. So this is a super maybe sneaky cheap stack that I am definitely interested in. I won't have as much Heineke as I was going to with Drake London in the game, but he's definitely viable. Next up is a guy that Baker Mayfield's put up 20 DraftKings points in 3 of 7 games so far this year. He's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to throw to, and he's only projecting at about 5.3% owned right now. Smash spot, right? Houston defense, they've been middle of the pack, mediocre, right? And I like the other side of the ball in this game too. I think this is a sneaky shootout, right? We are looking at a week where there is not a lot of high total games, right? Outside of the Eagles and Cowboys, pretty much everything is right around 40 or below. So I am really high on Mayfield. And when we build a lineup here in a second, I'm going to start it with Baker Mayfield. The guy that I want to pair him with is going to be Mike Evans, but Godwin is fine, I think. But anybody outside of those two, you're stretching it a little bit. All right. So I think this game is going to potentially blow up. I'm really high on Baker Mayfield this week. Running back situation. Since this article has come out, we've got a Matt LaFleur, the coach for the Packers, saying that he's ready to let Aaron Jones go beast mode here. All right. So obviously, maybe that would tell you to not play AJ Dillon. But I am maybe even more intrigued now because the ownership's gonna get lower, and you can just smash the field with AJ Dillon. All right, this is if you're building 150 lineups, you play AJ Dillon in 5. Right. Nobody else is going to play him. But he's got, similar to kind of Gus Edwards last week, he's got 2 touchdown upside. People are going to jump on Aaron Jones here, assuming that he's back in full. But I think that we'll see AJ Dillon still get 40% of the runs here, right? If we look at historically, right, the rush percentage was 41 to 35. They almost split evenly last week. I don't think we're going to see AJ Dillon be that far off, and he could be the guy who scores a touchdown this week. He's super cheap. He's getting a little bit more passing game work too. I'm kind of high on AJ Dillon this week. It's a little scary, but I'm intrigued by Dillon. Next up, we got 2 wide receivers that I like on this site, Mike Thomas and Juju Smith-Schuster. Let's talk about Thomas first. He's just super consistent. 7 or 8 targets, 50 to 60 yards. If he scores a touchdown at 4,700, he's going to get it done for you. He is going to potentially be in the nuts based on what the rest of your lineup does, right? He's a guy that's a cheap wide receiver that you can plug in so you can get to some of the other chalk plays. That is not going to hurt you. He's going up against the Bears, who are not great, but they do have some decent, Johnson's not bad. They're going to be on Olave, right? Thomas, the underneath routes, he's going to get peppered by Derek Carr, who I like in this game too. We'll talk about him here in a little bit. So just a super steady option. Now the super punt option is going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. All right. The Patriots are going up against the Commanders, who are trash, right? They lost Sweat and Chase Young, so they'll have no pass rush. Mac Jones is going to have all day to throw, and they've been thrown on by everybody. All right. Kendrick Bourne's on injured reserve. Devontae Parker's got a concussion, so it's going to come down to guys like Juju, Jalen Reagor, Kayshon Boutte. And I am going with the guy who's just been here a long time, or been in the league a long time and done it before, right? And that's Juju Smith-Schuster. He's dead min price. I know Kevin. He also has Demario Douglas to throw to, who's been great, right? But Smith-Schuster in the slot, I am really high on him here. I think that he is at 3,100, he makes so much work. He doesn't need to do anything to pay off his salary. Really high. So my favorite 5 DraftKings plays, right? My GPP faves over here are Juju, MT 87, AJ Dillon and Baker Mayfield and my boy Taylor Heineke. So if we were going to build a lineup here, what would that look like? All right. So let me see. There we go. It's going to start for me with Mayfield, right? Like we're scrolling all the way down here. We're getting Mayfield at a cheap 5,200. I can get to Mike Evans right away, who's really like super reasonably priced here at 7,300. Coming back on the other side, you can go like Nico Collins is 5,800. Okay. Tank Dell, 5,300. And then Noah Brown is 3,100. So another super cheap wide receiver if you wanted to get the game stack going. I'm not sure we're going to go there yet, but let's see. So I love MT. Let's get Michael Thomas in. Super strong play here. As we're kind of going down, I think that JT is intriguing. I don't know that he'll necessarily be chalk, but 12 for 95, 18 for 75. He's starting to get back in the mix here a little bit. So I'm pretty high on him. Josh Jacobs, I think against the Giants is really intriguing as well. Antonio Pierce at the helm says that he is going to get him the ball. Right. But for me, I just can't get past the price of Jonathan Taylor. Okay. Saquon, I think, is a guy that I am going to be all over here as well. He's just been smashing lately. So these guys are going to be fairly chalky, right? DST, we're playing the Giants all day, every day. Tight end. Okay, tight end. You know I love my boy Jake Ferguson, and now I've got 6,100 left. Right, I'm not even that different, but because of what I've done with Mayfield and Thomas, really, I can pretty much do whatever I want. Right, if I threw in like a cheap Noah Brown here or a Juju Smith-Schuster, right now I can play whoever. Right, I can play AJ Brown in the flex. That's not a problem. If I wanted to go a little bit more, balanced here, I can play Devonta. Now I got 5,100 left. I can get a guy like Jahan Dotson, or actually, yeah, this is probably where we want to go, right? We can go Devonta Smith with Chuba Hubbard. Okay. Again, if you wanted to go cheapy, you can. Not a big deal. You could go Godwin here. But that's sort of how I'm going to build on DraftKings this week, right? If we were going Heineke, it doesn't look a ton different, right? And again, play Jalen Hurts, play Dak Prescott. Those guys are in great spots here. Okay, I think even you could see Geno Smith have a game this week against, I get that it's against Baltimore. I think CJ Stroud's in a good spot to bounce back. Lamar Jackson obviously can crush, right? So you need to get exposure to those guys too. But I do like a sort of unique Millie Maker build with a guy that's going to be fairly low owned. So we go Pitts here. Let's get Juju in this one. Okay. We can make this one really funky. We can go Dylan. Right. Now we can really play whoever we want. Let's say we play the Chalk Hubbard, who they say is going to get the bell cow role here. Still play the it's hard not. I got to play the Browns a little bit this week just because Clayton Tune's going to suck. And then we can go CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown game stack, and I got 6,900 for my flex. I can play DK. I can play Josh Jacobs. Oh. Tell you what, that's a sexy lineup. What if I got rid of, let's go Jacobs here. It's hard to not play Jonathan Taylor everywhere, though. Let's go Jacobs here, and then in the flex, I could play at 49. Man, I can play MT there. I can play Dylan Watson, Cam Akers. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I kind of like Michael Thomas there the most. So, again, just two ideas, right, of how to play, right? Ooh, DeMarcado. I didn't see that he was ruled out. We got Keontae Ingram. Interesting. I might have to get onto my sleeper app and get him in my league right now. Okay, so that's how we're doing DraftKings this week. Let's take a look at FanDuel real quick here. And for me, it starts with Derek Carr. I love Derek Carr this week. He's been super steady. He's thrown for over 300 yards in each of his last 3 games. He's had more than 50 attempts in 2 of 3, right around the 19 FanDuel points every single week. Smash. I wrote that they hope they get the Justin Fields back, but if they don't, it doesn't matter. I still think that they'll be competitive against the Saints. But the Saints are going to score a bunch. 24.5 implied, or 24.75 implied team total. I love Carr, Thomas, Kamara stacks on this site. Dak Prescott, surprisingly not over 10% owned yet. I think he'll probably likely end up there, but just not super chalky. I really like that. The Eagles defense is terrible. This is a great spot for Dak. You pair him up with CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson. It's an easy stack piece. If you play props, guys, like the Proptimizer that we have on DFS Army that shows you what our projections are, what the sportsbooks projections are, what the Sharp apps project, like get involved. Like, what are you doing? Absolutely worth every cent that you pay for it. So Rice Freeman, Darrell Henderson is the lead back here, and I do love Hendo. I think that there's some viability in playing Rice Freeman. He outsnapped Hendo last week. Didn't get as many carries, but he was more productive than the ones that he got. And against Green Bay, I think that we might see this be the Rice Freeman show. No Stafford this week. Brett Rippon's going to start. It's going to be at least 10 plus carries for each of these guys, plus some passing game work. So you're hoping for a touchdown here from Freeman, but I think that he at like ridiculously low ownership is absolutely freaking in play. Noah Brown, we talked about that. He's stepping into the Robert Woods role. Really like him. I think he flourished last week, was second on the team in targets, led the team in yards from scrimmage. Stroud is going to have a better matchup here against Tampa Bay, who's been kind of a pass funnel defense. I think we see Stroud throw it 30 times, and Brown at like this price on DraftKings, FanDuel, either or is an elite play. And then finally, I wrote about Derek Carr. I think that the guy on the other side of the ball that's going to maybe do something here is Cole Kmet. Saw 10 targets last week. And with Marshawn Lattimore shutting down DJ Moore on the outside, I would expect that Tyson Bagent throws the ball to Cole Kmet a ton of times. Again, he is priced up a little on FanDuel, right? So you're basically going Dallas Goedert or Cole Kmet, okay? I think that Goddard's going to be over that 10% owned threshold. You just go Cole Kmet here. He's got a similar upside. The floor is, we saw the floor last week too with 10 targets, so I don't think the floor is that bad. So I really do like Cole Kmet here quite a bit. And then I just talked a little bit ago about the Giants. They're ridiculously priced on DraftKings. FanDuel, they're more appropriate. I think you just play them everywhere, right? They go against Aiden O'Connell. The Raiders look terrible. I don't even mind playing Josh Jacobs against them because they're going to get their points on sacks and picks and fumbles. So I'm pretty high on the Giants this week, and I'm going to be over probably 50% exposure to them over there. So on FanDuel, what does it look like, right? Let's build a Derek Carr lineup. Going up against New Orleans, I'm going to put Alvin Kamara in there, and I'm going to put Mikey T, my boy Mike Thomas, who is fairly cheap over here too, right? People are not respecting MT on this site. We said we like the Giants. Is there anybody that's cheaper on FanDuel that's like a minimum viable option? I think Carolina is a minimal viable option. The Vikings are a super viable option against Heineke. They've been really good the last couple of weeks, but we're just going to stick with the Giants. Tight end, we talked about Kmet. I like him. If you were going to go for a cheapo tight end, Trey McBride's obviously viable. Jake Ferguson is super viable here, but going to be popular, right? People seem to love Hunter Henry this week. I'm not super sold on it. I could get on board with Luke Musgrave, though. Coming back against, a not very good team on the other side of the ball. The Rams, I could play on their defense, but let's stick it with Cole Kmet here. And then let's eat some chalk, right? Chuba Hubbard, what's he priced at on FanDuel? Let's see here. Yeah, 6,500. Going to be the starter. We love that. So now I'm looking for 2 wide receivers and a flex. Let's get another running back in over here. Hendo, we said we like Freeman, right? Freeman's super cheap. It lets me get some stud wide receivers. I got 79.5 left, and I can get exposure to guys like, let's say I want to go AJ Brown. No, I'm going 6,900. I can go Olave. Well, I don't want that big of a stack. I can go Nico Collins in a good spot. Chris Godwin in a good spot against Houston. Let's go Collins here. So that would be, that's pretty unique, right? I don't think a lot of people are going to be playing Hoyce Freeman. And if we didn't play Hoyce, we could play a guy like Jaden Reed or a Mac Hollins or whatever. If we started this lineup with Dak Prescott, now what does it look like, right? If we go Dak, I'm probably double stacking this with Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb. Let's just go for the big dog here. Let's go CeeDee. Let's go, oopsies. And let's go AJ Brown with him. Now we got lots of studs. So now we got to find some value, right? So after that, we're only looking at 57.8. We'll still go the Giants D. Probably looking at 6,000 per the last couple of spots. I think that, again, Chuba is going to be the cheat code this week. That cheap running back that lets you get in. I like Royce Freeman. Now I'm dealing with a wide receiver and a flex. We can go cheapo wide receiver here. Let's go Michael Thomas. Again, too cheap. And now my flex, I'm looking at, a decent salary, right? I can get a lot of wide receivers in this spot. Do I have to go wide receiver? Oh, here we go. I can play Deonta Foreman, Zach Moss. Tony Pollard is just mega cheap here. Brian Robinson. I don't love that against New England. Kyron Williams is hurt. Roshan Johnson. How much is Keontae Ingram? I mean, he's going to start. He's dead man. Now let's upgrade Hoyce. Yeah, we go to Josh. Man, I don't hate that one little bit. Keontae Ingram starting. That's a pretty sexy lineup, guys. So I hope this was helpful. We are going to, again, hit me up. Let me know who you guys like this week, under 10% owned on each site, and we will keep it going here, fellas. All right. Hopefully have another good week where we're looking at that 2.7x or better on both sites. So here we go. Cheers, everybody. Make sure you use that code UpNorth. If you're not a DFS Army VIP, you can use that code to get a VIP monthly membership. That is code UpNorth. Leave your comments, leave your likes, subscribe if you want more content like this. Cheers.